You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy... What day is it today? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this beautiful Tuesday morning, the 28th day of October. Can you believe we're almost at the end of the year? Wasn't it March just the other day? Time really flies, eh? I hope you're well this morning. Thank you so much for being with us here on 702. Our show starts with the 702 open line on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Did you see the Cameroonian president we spoke about a few weeks ago, Paul Biya, has now clinched his 8th term in office? He was campaigning at the time we spoke about him. He's the world's oldest head of state. He's 92 years old. The Constitutional Council has now announced in Cameroon that he has won an 8th term. Guys, this man first came into power in 1982. I wasn't even born at the time. And these results, him winning this time around, and I say winning in inverted commas, mean that he can now govern until 2023. So basically, he will rule Cameroon until he's 100 years old. What do you think about that? Labumatosa would say, about what, Tembi? But what do you think about that? Because it's quite controversial. Opposition leaders think that something funny happened. Vote rigging of sorts. I mean, are you telling me that there are no competent people who can run the country, who are slightly younger than 92? And what has he done after having been in power for so long? He spends most of his time in Switzerland. He's running the country remotely, if at all. Europe is like his second home. So the issue of democracy is in serious question in Cameroon. And I wonder what you think about what's transpired now. And if there are any Cameroonians listening to us this morning, what have you experienced from this man's leadership? If you've lived in Cameroon and you've lived, of course, during the time, if you've lived after 1982, during the time when he's been in power, give me a call or send me a WhatsApp voice note. The story of these alleged looters, Bohangwani Maumela, Buket Matlala, you name them, all these guys have been, Ket and Hangwani, for instance, have been accused of looting 2 billion rand from Tembisa. That's a lot of money, my friends. They have bought 53 million rand cars. Who buys a 53 million rand car? A 70 million rand house and other expensive assets. And the question that has been on my mind, in fact, over the last couple of weeks is, why haven't their transactions flagged? Because aren't they suspicious? What is the role of banks? Where are the banks and where have they been? The estate agents that are facilitating these transactions as they buy these houses, what due diligence are they doing? The lawyers. How do these proceeds of crime and fraud travel through our economy so legitimately until there's a big hoo-ha? When journalists report and reveal the looting, the SIU steps in, and then the banks now what? They wake up to realize that there's been funny business throughout. And I wonder what measures you think can be taken to prevent criminals from using proceeds of crimes and participating in the formal economy. What do you think can be done? Because criminals are spending looted money so comfortably. And I really think that we're being failed here. Sometimes by estate agents, by banks, by the lawyers. Where's the Financial Intelligence Center? You know, the FIC? And they probably will say, well, we'll rely on the banks to flag the transactions. Remember what happened with the Guptas? Remember what happened with Steinhoff? There are sophisticated financial crimes out there, and we need systems that can flag that. We need systems that can follow the money. Banks started raising red flags when there was pressure to do so. Remember, with the Guptas, the Financial Intelligence Center has a legislative mandate to identify the proceeds of unlawful crime in terms of the Financial Intelligence Center Act of 2001. And accordingly, they should have robust systems in place to detect exactly these kinds of transactions. But here we are now. I mean, this is an institution whose primary role is to protect the integrity of the country's financial system. And they do that by identifying proceeds of crime. They do that by combating money laundering and the financing of terrorism-related work. And they work with law enforcement authorities. But I really, really think that we are being failed by some of these institutions. I don't see how so much money can be in the formal economy. So much money can be transacted. And you and I can just tell from not even looking at the financial statements that this is very suspicious. And yet the estate agents, the banks, the lawyers, all these stakeholders have not flagged anything as suspicious. They've not picked up anything weird, unless they have, and they haven't said anything about it. We need institutions that are going to follow the money. Steinhoff is where it is because we didn't follow the money properly in the beginning. The Gupta money, the laundering schemes, we picked that up too late. I think we need to do better. What do you think of the role of banks, of the role of estate agents, lawyers? Is there anything they can do? The role of the FIC. I mean, there have been some successes, yes, but there have been some failures. And I think there are some lessons here that we can learn. Do they even have enough resources and capabilities? I'd like us to have this conversation on the open line this morning because it really does get disappointing. That's why we end up on the grey list, end up being grey listed. Thank goodness we're out of the woods, not completely, but at least we're off the list. But these are the things that lead us there because we just don't have robust systems that help us fight financial crimes and flag when there are proceeds of crime that are transacting in our formal economy. Let me know your thoughts on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. I'd like to hear from estate agents as well. Maybe you work for a bank. Maybe you are a lawyer. How do you guys navigate these things? How do you zoom in? And what are the limitations? Because maybe it's easy for me to say because I think that you've got a much broader scope. Help me understand what the limitations are from your side.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
John, you calling us from Johannesburg. Good morning. Hello, John.
Yes, morning, Clement.
How are you, man?
I'm fine today. I'm very, very good. Clement, I would just like to weigh in on this Cameroon issue and the president. First of all, I really, really want to appreciate you guys for bringing this up because this is something that never happens commonly for people to talk about Cameroon. Mm-hmm. I'm a Cameroonian citizen. I was born in 82, same time when this guy became president. I'm about 43 years old now. He's still the president. And he was some sort of the deputy president in 1980, 2 years after he became the president. So he's been messing up so many things. He's one of the reasons that I left Cameroon before 2010, and I'm still residing in South Africa just because of him. I'm from the English side. Right now, I can tell you that there is some sort of a civil war in the English section of Cameroon just because of this guy.
Oh,
so this is a very big issue that I promise you many Cameroonians appreciate the fact that you guys are talking about this, because I think this is the only way that this guy is going to live by us.
What is it about him, though, John? I mean, a 92-year-old. In fact, I've been watching videos of him during the last couple of weeks during campaigning before the actual elections, and you could tell that he's non-existent even in the campaign. You know, it's almost like he has to be held and taken out because people must just see that he is alive. But honestly, this man doesn't have the energy anymore. So what do you think it's about him and Cameroonians who vote for someone that old, or even the party he belongs to, that still puts him up and say, this is the man who must continue to lead until he's 100 years old? And I suspect that maybe it's because there are people around him who know that they are in charge and they just control him.
That is the truth. That is what I was going to say. First of all, it's the people around him. This guy I don't think he even reasons anymore. It's the people around him. And secondly, no one votes for this guy. They just go read that election. Can you believe a national election is taking place and the national television doesn't even show the police station? Nothing. They just come read the results at the end of the day. And then the biggest people that are backing him up is the international community, the France, especially France, who were colonized by France. I think they've got a lot that they're gaining from Cameroon, because it's not normal that things like this happen. No one mentions. This guy goes to visit the head of state in France, and there was even a time 2 years back that he couldn't walk up the staircase to meet the president. The president of France had to come down and held him by the hand and put him up. So what kind of a thing is that?
Yeah, sure. John in Joburg, thank you for calling us. I'm glad to hear from a Cameroonian who has lived during this man's time. And as you hear from John, he's had to escape that. So spare a thought for other Cameroonians who are stuck in Cameroon with this chap who's going to be leading until he is 100 years old. Quite shocking. Let's go to Simon, who's calling us from Randburg. Simon, you work in the banking sector. Good morning.
Hi, morning, Clem. I left the banking sector, but I used to work directly in the anti-money laundering space. And so basically what happens is, when a suspicious transaction is flagged on the system, you may not alert the customer, which is called tipping off.
Yeah.
So everything is done in the background. All the reports, the suspicious transactions are reported to the FIC, who will then obviously, if there's credit or merit to the report, they will then ask for further information. After that, they will then interrogate the transactions in the background. Nobody knows something is happening until at such point that they now have a solid case. Is only when they decide, you know what, let's invoke the SIU and all the other bodies to play. So even the car dealerships are also required to report suspicious transactions. So it's not true that everything is not happening in the background. So that's why you find it seems like nothing is happening, but actually there's a lot of machinery in the background.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd clarify that for you.
Thank you for that, Simon. I did find that sometimes, which is why there were serious questions asked to even banks, is that I felt that sometimes the suspicious transactions are flagged when it's a little late. Like now, the criminals have already started moving their funds. They now have offshore accounts, and we act too late. Because then when you flag them, now the FIC must do their own investigation, and sometimes that takes long. The question I have, though, is what would make a transaction suspicious? So if you are working in the banking sector, you work in... What division did you say you used to work in?
Anti-money laundering.
Anti-money laundering. What qualifies as suspicious? Is it when there's like lots of money is coming in unexplained, or what?
So we use, let me say, when I was there, we used to use this technology that we use that mimics your behavior. So, for example, if you're an ordinary employed person, you work in a permanent role, and suddenly you receive monies outside of your normal transactional behavior, then you'll be flagged. And then that starts the process of investigating, was this money, where did you get it from, and all that stuff. We can see if, for example, you receive rental income and suddenly you receive 100,000 rand cash or an EFT, it flags on the system. And if it is outside of your normal behavior, that's why it becomes a suspicious transaction.
Yeah.
But at no point are you allowed to then tip the client off, or sometimes by investigating the client, you need to do it in the background so that they don't know that you're being investigated.
Yeah. All right.
Otherwise, they start moving the funds. But there is always, these guys are always clever. They do also know the law. They know the thresholds. So they transact below the radar. And they know that if I do this transaction, it's going to be flagged and so forth. And sometimes not every person in the system is honest. So some car dealership will say, pay me cash. And if you pay me cash, I don't have to declare it. You don't have to declare it to anyone. And there are rotten apples in the system.
Yeah, sure. So, Simon, when people use cash, does that make then the work difficult of trying to see the rot and the fraud? Is that how the criminals are doing it now? Because I'm also getting lots of messages of people who say, well, cars are being bought cash these days to avoid you, Simon, as someone who works in a bank, flagging that.
Yes, definitely. It's most of the companies that do unscrupulous transactions prefer to do it via cash because there's no record of it. And And unfortunately, it is the system, and because there's a lot of corruption and unethical businesses out there, it's not going to end soon.
It's not going to end soon, and that's what's scaring me, Simon. That's really what's scaring me. Thank you so much for your call, Simon. Simon used to work in the banking sector, in the anti-money laundering division, just sharing his experience with us. I am just worried that there are millions and millions being transacted. And yes, in some instances, there's cash being paid. You know, that's how these criminals are doing things now. They just buy everything in cash. It's like what I read in the Sunday papers yesterday. The Gauteng Health HOD, the SIU are saying that they picked up that he was busy withdrawing money, cash. Who goes to different ATMs and just withdraws like over R1 million in different transactions? So you take 200,000 here, 300,000 there the next day, next month or next week you do this. And the SIU says this man hasn't been able to explain why that's the case. That was in the reports this past Sunday. Hence I asked, what do you think can be done for us to prevent these criminals from doing what they have been doing? Because as Simon said, they found a way to cheat the system. They know what's the threshold. So what measures do you think we need to prevent criminals from using these proceeds of crime and participating in the formal economy? John, you're calling us from Soweto. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Clement, two things. Number one, this SIU business, for me, I don't know. It's like we're using good money to chase after bad money. And in any case, it all depends on proclamation from the president. I've often wondered what happens if the president himself is involved in these acts of corruption. I mean, does he sign a proclamation to self-investigate himself? So in the end, we really need to find a way to prevent all these things, money from, disappearing from our coffers, For me, it seems very self-defeating. I mean, we allow money to leave then then the president sign a proclamation so we can start going to look after it. And I promise you, Clement, you never get all
And
of
that's a bit too late by then, John.
Exactly,
I mean, do you think
exactly.
John Hangwani, someone who buys a 53 million rand car, a 70 million rand house, do you think that he's stupid enough to just have those assets? Can you imagine how much money this man has sent offshore accounts?
to Dubai.
To Dubai,
and the other places, Mauritius and so forth. Secondly, Clement, you know, you're asking about banks. Ask about SARS. Nowadays, when you buy a car, SARS form that you fill. You know, so what is that for? Is it that not to alert them that, listen, there's something fishy here? You know, and then why have they? I mean, surely SARS knows something. They can see this guy from nowhere suddenly has got all these billions. You know, so it just looks like they work in silo or they are in cahoots. I don't know. And they are very good when it comes to me and you.
They are. You withdraw
They will
50
take-
rand, John, they
exactly.
come after you.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Clement.
All right, John, in Soweto, thank you so much for your call. It's just so frustrating. Manfred on YouTube says, Clement, banks send alert when minions like us deposit huge sums that are not typically monthly salaries. Banks have to flag politically exposed persons and their relatives for transactions like these. And then Kensani also on YouTube says, Clement, these people are not buying properties in cash. They're using funds that should have been cleared by the bank. Estate agents have commission to earn, and source of EFT is not in their scope. There's so many more messages coming through on the WhatsApp line, which we'll get to after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Your calls as well on 011-883-0702. It's 9:30.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. I've been asking you this hour about this Cameroonian president, the oldest president in the world. He's 92 years old and he's just won, quote unquote, won elections in Cameroon. An 8th term. He's going to be president until he's 100 years old. I've been asking you, if you from Cameroon, how do you slice what just happened? And what is it about this man that makes him so attractive to the voters, even at that age? By the way, he's never in Cameroon. He spends time in Switzerland. He's always in Europe. Even during campaigning, there were times when he's in Europe because that's like his second home. So who's running Cameroon? And why is he consistently being elected president even when he's almost nowhere to be found? I've got your WhatsApp voice notes coming through on that. I've got more calls responding to the question I asked about the role of banks, the role of estate agents, of lawyers, because I honestly don't think it's possible that people can loot 2 billion rand, to use that example from Tembisa Hospital, and then they transact, they buy houses, they buy cars, and all these transactions are not flagged. Something is weird. Bridget, Chris, I'll come to your calls in a moment. Here are some WhatsApp voice notes that have come on the Cameroonian president.
Good morning, Clement Manyathela and 702 listeners. Regarding the president of Cameroon and many others on the African continent, it's happening because the youth do not take their future into their own hands. Remember, politics determines economics. So whoever is in power determines the economic policy, and that determines the livelihood of the youth and the country. So most of the youth in those countries are either out of the country in Europe trying to look for greener pastures, and they are not participating in the voting. Same here in South Africa. A lot of unemployed people is the youth. And most of the people that do not go to the voting station is also the youth. So they've delegated the decision to somebody else. Somebody is going to decide on them. So until they wake up to the fact that they need to go out in numbers and vote for the party that is going to make good on their promises, then we'll continue to see these oldies making funny decisions. Thank you.
Good day, Clement. Good evening to London. Abraham in Florida. Clement, however you look at this matter with the Cameroonian president, you can see that there's no democracy in that country, and it doesn't make any sense for people to keep on voting for someone who's never there in the country, who operates remotely and works like a digital nomad. It really, it's a sad day for Africa, and really, Clement, the people of Cameroon deserve better. They deserve more leadership, and people who are invested in the country and who actually stay. And this is part of the problem that Africa is experiencing, where medical facilities are destroyed. They are not well kept. Whenever the president or the head of the state or ministers get sick, they get to go to Russia and all of these other countries that they believe they can get the best medical assistance.
Yeah.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Yeah, while all of us suffer here, right? The people they serve and vote for them are busy using public hospitals. Money is being looted. Have you seen videos at Tembisa Hospital? How hectic they are? Yeah. And then you've got our presidents who, on this continent, who will leave even hospitals of that kind, and they go and get their treatments where? In Russia, in Europe somewhere. Because they don't care about you. They care about your vote. But you have given them so much power, so many resources that they leave you to deal with what you're dealing with in your home country. And they're busy having a fun, wonderful time in Europe. Chris, you're calling us from Johannesburg. You're a business owner. What do you want to say about this issue of transactions being flagged? What's your experience?
Yes, thank you, Clement. Yeah, so my name is Chris. I am a business owner, and we import and export a lot of IT hardware and software that we distribute in SA and throughout Africa. So our transactions, I don't think the banks can abdicate their duty to say that they flag suspicious transactions and then just give it through to the FIC, because themselves as well, we do a lot of payments to our suppliers in, let's say, US dollar, and the banks actually flags it to say, why are you making so many payments going outbound through to a specific supplier base overseas, and they stop the transactions from actually taking place. And we say this is basically regularly payments that we make to this supplier. They ask you a whole lot of
Yeah.
questions, and they even stop it from actually going through. And at sometimes they even ask us to get South African Reserve Bank approval due to the amount of payments going through.
So how do these other people then get away with it?
So the banks have enabled state capture. They've got very advanced anti-money laundering systems that would flag this stuff, right? So how did so much of millions and billions of South African rands get converted from ZAR into US dollar, euros, and the banks don't stop it? The banks have enabled state capture and for these funds are leaving. We run a legitimate business, and we know there's so much of red tape that you would actually need to go through to make legitimate forex transactions to suppliers out there. And these people can start up basically companies yesterday, get millions of rands into their actual bank accounts, and then the bank allows them to transfer all of these funds outbound.
That's what we saw in Tembisa. All those funny companies that were used to loot the money, because there's not one. The SIU said many, many, many others who had just started, no experience whatsoever in the services they were rendering, and yet millions are flowing into those accounts. Where have all these institutions been? Bridget, you're calling us from Boksburg. You're an estate agent. What's your experience? Good morning.
Yeah, look, with regard to money laundering, okay, the estate agents has got very stringent policies in place.
Yeah.
For example, I'm with Achiever, and that's in Boksburg. We get trained on a regular basis. We get attorneys coming in to explain to us exactly how it works, and we even get tested on it, on a regular basis. For example, we know that there are fines as much as 10 million rand, which an individual would pay, for being non-compliant. Our admin staff is incredibly strict, okay? And, I've had one or two cases where, so first of all, if we have a cash transaction, we need to know exactly where the cash is coming from. So clients sometimes get very irritated with us asking all these questions, but fortunately, we explain to them, because of FICA, we need to know exactly where the money is coming from. Is it from pension fund? We need to know what the source is. So a lot of the estate agents in Boksburg is very strict with regard to these sort of things, and I've got no idea how, all these things in the past has happened, but the estate agents are very, very strict.
No, that's good to hear, Bridget. And I'm glad to hear that there are estate agents that are asking the questions, as we may hate it as clients and people that are purchasing homes. That's good to do, because that's where estate agents can pick up if there's any funny business there. Moletsani, you're calling from Centurion. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. I honestly believe that as much as there are some good lawyers and bad lawyers, there are also some good estate agents and bad estate agents. But then, common sense tells me that no estate agent is going to want to be a corruption champion. No lawyer is going to want to lose on their commission, as much as no estate agent is going to want to lose on their commission just by being maybe a good citizen, a whistleblower, when they've seen that there is actually no material benefit to becoming a whistleblower. Say, hey, I'm flagging something, there's something suspicious here. What do you get as far as that is concerned? And then at the end of the day, you still have to pay your school fees, you still have to feed your family, you've lost out on commission, and sometimes you can be ostracized by your industry, for having a big mouth. I'm telling you, Clement, this is a well-sophisticated system that I really feel sorry for the estate agents and the lawyers. But for the banks, yeah, they ought to, because banks are highly, highly, highly regulated. Yeah. But the estate agents and the lawyers are, Clement, I think we just become just to expect them to fake those.
And that's a big commission, hey, Moletsani? Someone is buying a 70 million rand home. Are you really going to say, hey, I'm going to report you?
Never. It's never going to happen, Clement.
Yeah. Moletsani, in Centurion, thank you for your call. It's just so, it's so frustrating, because then, can you imagine the people who have sold homes to these criminals? Like, what's their conscience saying? Like, what are they thinking about when they see what's happening in the news? And maybe they took decisions that we're not going to flag this. Or maybe they didn't even realize that they were dealing with people who have questionable credentials and, questionable issues around where the money is coming from. But as that listener says, people are prone to exploitation, whether you're a lawyer, estate agent, or detectives. Aren't we dealing now with issues where top cops are found to have relationships with these people? Elma, you're in Johannesburg. You're from West Africa. What do you want to say about the Cameroonian president? Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Good morning, listeners all over the world. I hope everyone is doing okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Speaking to Elma from West Africa, my point of view concerning the election in Cameroon is just to keep subjugating the people of Cameroon and also surrounding parts of Africa. These are the people who are being used by Westerners to keep on taking, because those people don't know what the letters say. Whatever they ask them to sign, they sign, and they keep on looting our resources. Like an example now is like Nigeria. The current president of Nigeria was number 4. The person who won the election wasn't given it to. Then number 4 become number 1. Look at the state of Nigeria now; it's very worst and horrible. So this is what we are going through in Africa, because we are not the one. They are not the one ruling. There are power forces behind them that keep on wanting Africa to be subjugated, being unrest, being lawlessness, that cause the citizens to leave their own countries. And when they leave, they will become a problem or being attacked wherever they go to. So most countries that have been migrating out of their country is not because of they cannot fend for themselves, but the government have finished them. We in Nigeria is gone. Look at the genocide, look at this killing. It's too much. Lawlessness, kidnapping, organ harvesting. A lot is going on in Nigeria, but the media are not saying about it. Mazen and the kind of issue, Biafran issue is too much. But the UN, US, Britain, everyone is aware of it. They do nothing about the life of people. Christians are massacred. Some videos, when you see them, you will not eat. A woman is being cut off their belly, get the baby out and thrash on the floor. People are being slaughtered on the throat like a goat. It's horrible, Clement. It's too much.
I can hear your frustration, Elma, and understandably so. Understandably so. It's just disappointing what we see from our leaders on the continent. And they claim, I mean, some of them fought for democracy in those countries. Some of them fought against imperial forces. And here they are. They are doing, in a different way, but the same thing that those imperial forces were doing to the people on this continent. Elma in Joburg, thanks for your call. Yelang, Bonnie, I see your calls. I'll come to them after this.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
8 minutes before 9 o'clock. Yelang, you're calling us from Fendale. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Good morning to you and the listeners. Clement, in regards to Cameroon's re-election of the current president, Paul Biya, look, the reality is things will not change ever in Cameroon because that is the last French colony in Africa, and as we know, France cannot afford to lose a colony like Cameroon because the minerals, all the resources that country has in abundance are being utilized by the French. So when you look at a situation like this where the election has clearly been rigged, you have to place it at the feet of the country that actually governs Cameroon, and that is France. The reality is the majority of the Anglophone Cameroonians, English-speaking, don't live in Cameroon for those who have the means. They're scattered all over the world, South Africa, Canada, the U.S., and the reality is those people have been persecuted for generations, for decades, and nothing has been done. So this won't change. I think there comes a time in geopolitics where we must just tell the truth, and the truth is Cameroon will never be released by France. So we place this where it belongs, at the feet of France.
Helang in Fendale, thank you for your contribution.
Good morning, 702. Good morning, Clement. The only way we can stop this is, yes, we need to turn ourselves and be whistleblowers, like anonymous whistleblowers, because we're the only ones that can stop this corruption. Some of us know of it, but we don't report it. Some of us know how to do it, but we don't report it. So sometimes I think it's in the public's hands, and stop doing corruption ourselves. It's not just the big people, even us. It's also in our hands.
Good morning, Clement. Look, my brother, the problem is not the system. The system in its potential, it has ability to protect and to expose. But remember, the system is operated by people. And if people don't have the country's best interest in their hearts, then they are going to just look after themselves and their pockets, regardless of who is harmed by this frauds. So South Africa's issue has never been a system. It has always been people. Corrupt police, corrupt politicians, corrupt bankers, corrupt financial institutions, just corruption throughout.
Morning, Clement and the team. I used to work for a financial institution and, like you say, banks, insurance companies, estate agents, attorneys, investment companies, dealerships. These are some of the accountable, they used to call them accountable institutions. So if a person comes with a bag full of money, they have to find out, or maybe a transaction. They have to explain where the money is coming from. This is what we used to do when I was working in the bank. So I don't know what went wrong with the banks, really. I do blame them in this Mahangwani story. And the dealership. It's Veronica from Springview. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi there, Clement. Mike here from Morning Hill. I just think maybe it would be a good idea that if transactions like these are discovered, that the estate agents, the bankers, the whole value chain or supply chain that actually helps enable this kind of behavior should be investigated, and they shouldn't get away with it. They should get more than just a slap on the wrist. They should be co-conspirators as such, because surely as a person you would recognize a red flag when you see it if you're a professional in any of those industries. I don't know, just a thought.
Hi, Clement. They were here from Randfontein. You know, Clement, this is so simple, ne? The sad part about this whole thing, these estate agents, these auditors, these chartered accountants, I'm sure somewhere, somehow, there's a clause that they sign pertaining to ethics. I'm sure some of them have seen suspicious activities when it comes to the money that they use to buy these houses. These auditors, these chartered accountants that come across such amounts of money. It's all about ethics, Clement. There's nothing more we can say. They are trained, especially the guys by its and the numbers. They are trained to spot such things, and they are obliged to report such. So, in a sense, they are also complicit in what's going on in the country.